America before America, the world that disappeared when Europeans first stepped onto the lands of North America. They believed they had discovered an empty continent, a wild, untouched land waiting for an owner. In reality, they entered one of the most densely populated regions on Earth. Historians today estimate that up to 100 million people lived in the Americas at that time, more than the entire population of Europe. And within just a few decades, up to 90% of them would be gone. But before that happened, a world existed here that is rarely talked about. The word Indians creates an illusion of unity. In reality, this land was home to hundreds of distinct nations. They spoke different languages. They followed different laws. Some did not even consider each other the same people. Some lived in frozen northern forests, others in vast deserts, others still in cities larger than London at the time. What united them was simple. They had lived here for thousands of years. There were no borders drawn on paper, but there was order. Trade routes stretched across the entire continent, from the Great Lakes to modern-day Mexico, from the Atlantic coast to the Pacific. Along these routes traveled copper, obsidian, shells, feathers, tools, and ideas. People who had never seen the ocean wore jewelry made from seashells. Those living near the coast used copper mined hundreds of miles inland. North America was connected long before the concept of globalization existed. Europeans did not expect to find cities, and often they did not recognize them. One of the largest cities in North America was Cahokia, near modern-day St. Louis. At its peak, it was home to around 40,000 people. It had massive earthen pyramids, ceremonial plazas, and clearly defined districts. When Cahokia thrived, London was smaller. This was not a temporary camp. It was an organized urban society. The image of Native Americans as only hunters is deeply misleading. Most were farmers, and extraordinarily advanced ones. Many of the foods that sustain the modern world originated here. Corn, potatoes, tomatoes, beans, peppers, squash, sunflowers, cacao. Corn, in particular, does not exist in nature. It is the result of thousands of years of selective cultivation. Without indigenous agriculture, there would be no Italian cuisine, no fast food, no modern livestock farming. Many tribes practiced a system known today as the Three Sisters. Corn provided structure. Beans enriched the soil with nitrogen. Squash retained moisture and prevented weeds. It was a self-sustaining agricultural system that modern universities still study. The forests Europeans described as wild were often carefully managed landscapes. Controlled burns prevented massive wildfires, renewed soil fertility, and maintained biodiversity. Animals were not hunted to extinction. Ecosystems remained stable for centuries. When these practices disappeared, the land began to degrade. Many environmental problems in modern North America exist, not because indigenous people misused the land, but because their knowledge was removed from it. Indigenous civilizations also possessed deep astronomical knowledge. Stone circles and earthworks across North America align with solstices, equinoxes, and lunar cycles. These structures allowed people to predict seasons, rainfall, and agricultural cycles with remarkable accuracy. For them, time was not linear. It was cyclical. The past was always present. The future had already happened. This worldview shaped their decisions, their conflicts, and how they raised their children. Despite popular belief, most tribes did not live in constant warfare. Conflicts existed, but they were often limited, ritualized, and symbolic. The goal was balance, not annihilation. Total war and mass conquest as strategies were largely foreign concepts. Before European contact, more than 300 languages were spoken across North America. Many had no written form. Some contained concepts that cannot be translated into any modern language. Today, most of these languages are gone forever, not because they were primitive, but because their speakers disappeared. This world was not a paradise. There were diseases, famines, social hierarchies, and violence. But it was a world that evolved slowly and sustainably, without industrial pressure or endless expansion. Humans did not see themselves as masters of nature. They saw themselves as part of it. By the late 15th century, North America was alive. Villages were filled with smoke from cooking fires. Fields were cultivated. Trade routes were active. Rivers were clean. No one knew that within decades, diseases like smallpox, measles, and influenza would arrive. Illnesses no one here had immunity against. Within a single century, up to 90% of the population vanished, not primarily through war, but through disease. It was the greatest demographic collapse in human history. When Europeans began writing about the continent, most of its people were already dead. They saw ruins and assumed this was how things had always been. America was not empty. It was emptied. And the difference between those two words is the difference between myth and reality. America did not begin in 1776. It did not begin in 1492. It existed for thousands of years before that. And the more we learn about that lost world, the clearer it becomes. It did not disappear because it was weak. It disappeared because it faced something it had never encountered before.